Thanks for joining us on Shannons Club TV, the show where we examine the significance of cars in Australia.
In each episode, we open the archive on our feature car with rare images, great stories and a well-preserved owner's example.
We'll also bring you the latest market trends from the Shannons auctions team. Right now though, we revisit the forgotten Holden Monaro Coupes, the HJ and HX.
Who would have predicted in 1968, when the first Monaro was wowing Australians, that the leftover body shells from the second generation of these landmark coupes would take Holden an agonising 5 years to clear? The problem started after sales of the striking HQ Monaro GTS coupe stalled and buyers shifted to the new GTS four-door version. Holden was left with 1,600 unsold HQ coupe shells that no longer matched the HJ facelift's new rear styling. Despite the HJ's bold new front styling and efforts to conceal the HQ rear with an integrated rear spoiler, HJ coupe sales again dropped, this time to just 606 HJ Monaro GTS coupes and a pitiful 337 LS versions. The 4,574 HJ GTS four-doors sold during this period highlighted the shift away from the Monaro coupe. Holden then had to pull the Monaro coupe out of production before the end of the HJ series in 1975, with almost 600 coupe shells still unsold. Mark, this move away from the Monaro coupe was one of the most brutal rejections of a model loved by so many Australians. Yet it happened at a time when its profile in motorsport was unprecedented.
Yeah, and that was thanks largely to the efforts of Bob Jane and the beautiful HQ GTS 350 coupe in sport sedan racing, and another beautiful Monaro, which I'll get to a bit later on. The problem was that Holden fans at the time had a huge choice of other cars, and Australians, as we know, traditionally love four-doors. So there was the HQ GTS 350 four-door, the HJ GTS, and then of course the V8 powered LH Torano, which was also a four-door. So even though they were happy to go along and cheer on these mighty racing Monaros on the track, that didn't translate to the showroom when they went to go and buy a car.
Mark, the problems didn't start with the HJ or HX versions. When the HQ range was launched, sales stalled as Australians came to grips with the HQ's groundbreaking new looks. As soon as they did, HQ sales took off and set spectacular new sales records. The HQ Monaro coupe, as the hero model, should have been an even more stellar success. The opposite occurred, hence the large number of leftover body shells. The main reason? Well, close to the HQ's release, several radical rooflines proposed for the HQ Monaro coupe, linking it to the previous model, were rejected. Instead, the production HQ coupe appeared with an upright side window design more in keeping with the sedan. Sales confirm that Monaro buyers decided if they were going to bring home a coupe that looked like a sedan minus two doors, they might as well have the extra doors. Before HQ sales took off, conservative Holden management panicked and scrapped the HQ's much sleeker facelift for the HJ's square upright front. Because the same thinking had already defined the roofline of the HQ coupe, the HJ front proved a better match for the HQ Monaro's more formal side window line than the sedan. As the HJ and HX coupes carry-over HQ rear end has become less relevant over the years, the extra cohesion in the HJ and HX coupes can now be appreciated. Mark, these final Monaro coupes went out with a bang as an LE in the showroom and the racetrack as well.
Yeah, and who better to race a Monaro than one of Australia's greatest racing champions? The 1970s was a golden era for Australian sports sedan racing, and one of the best remembered cars was the big 350 V8 Monaro, driven by multiple Australian touring car champion Pete Gagan. This tyre-melting monster was owned by wealthy industrialist Laurie O'Neill, who in 1973 commissioned top race mechanic and car constructor John Shepherd to build him, simply, the best sports sedan in Australia. Holden's HQ GTS 350 coupe proved an ideal starting point, but because of delays during its construction, Gagan's Monaro was updated with the latest HJ GTS front clip when it debuted in early 1975. Beyond its fuel-injected 550 horsepower Chev V8, The Gagan Monaro featured an exotic Holden 5-speed transaxle, inboard disc brakes and independent rear suspension. This classy mix of traditional V8 muscle car and Le Mans winning Ford GT40 resulted in a hand-built Aussie supercar with shattering performance. Joe, as you mentioned earlier, by the mid-1970s, Holden was really struggling to find buyers for its stockpile of HJ Monaro bodies. So do you think that Gagan's car may have inspired, some of those buyers to have a second look?
Probably not so much at the Monaro, but the HJ range in general.
Overall.
That HJ was an absolute aberration. It was born out of panic, very conservative element in Holden who wanted Holdens to have farm gate fronts again, which is what it did.
Yeah.
And there was no context for it. And it was tied to a rear end from another era. I think this was one of the few reasons why you'd take a second look at any HJ, to be honest.
Because that Gagan car was just a stunning looking car on the track.
Well, it showed the potential in the looks and you only saw the front of it.
That's true. Gagan's Monaro won its first 6 feature races on the trot and proved very competitive in the big dollar sports sedan series being held at Melbourne's Calder Park and Oran Park in Sydney. Its results in 1975 were tarnished, though, by occasional failures in the exotic Holden rear end, which was not designed to cope with the brutality of standing starts. A bizarre dispute with the sport's governing body over engine size forced O'Neill to revert to the car's HQ front clip in 1976. The original clean and classy HJ look was further diminished by dramatic bodywork changes to improve high-speed aerodynamics. The Monaro was still fast, but increasingly fragile, causing O'Neill to give up on his dream of sports sedan dominance, and the car was sold. Gagan and his mighty Monaro only competed for 2 seasons, but they left an indelible impression.
You can read many other great road and race stories on the Shannons Club website.
Hi, I'm Mike Cooper and this is a 1975 HJ Coupe. Its colour is chamois. Originally it was made in May 1975, Pagewood up in Sydney. My wife and I are the third owners of this vehicle. The gentleman we bought it from was a gent by the name of Brian Silcock over in Melbourne. It was bought initially as a company car because he worked at Holden's, and then just after that the car was converted to tow caravans. When we originally bought the car it was in good condition, but over the years rust got into the cars, which was, for this particular model, rust crept into them, doors, etc. We garaged it for quite a few years, and then around about 1990, 2000, I took it away and got all the rust removed out of it, and we repainted it back in its original colour. This came originally fitted with a 5-litre engine, or 308 in the old money. It is the original engine that come with the motor car, along with the Turbo 400 transmission. And also the rear axle is the same as what it was when it was delivered in 1975. With Holden's, they did the facelift on the sedan, but unfortunately the Coupe never got it. It got the HQ back end on it, and from the dashboard front was all HJ. The spoiler package that was fitted to most of these was an optional extra. It's just a matter of ticking the box at your Holden dealer and you got them, but this never had them. It never came with them, or the honeycomb wheels. I haven't decided whether I'll sell it yet because we really enjoyed driving it. We went across to Tanunda last year for the Monaro state titles. Believe you me, it was a trip and a half. I really enjoyed it. Wherever you go, you always find somebody, hey mate, that is an absolutely beautiful car, and that's just the guys. The ladies love it. Biggest surprise is that I don't own it, my wife does. And for those that are watching, this is the lucky lady owner of this beautiful car.
Well, Shannon's National Auctions Manager Chris Borrabon joins us for Hammer Time. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Chris. HJ Monaro GTS Coupe.
Yeah.
HXLE. Not that long ago, the response would have been, who cares? We're a long way from that now.
Yeah.
What's been the process? What's happened?
Look, I think we've seen the focus previously on the HQs, and look, as they're getting rarer to find, what we have found though is the focus has shifted also and gone to the HJ and also the HXLE. The HJ, I mean, very rare car. There was just over 600 built in the GDS variation, and again in the LS it's even rarer. So. So I think there's they're sought after today for their rarity.
Do you think there's two types of Monaro buyer, like the guys who really love the sort of 60s Bathurst cars and then these cars? Or is it, if you're a Monaro lover, you like them all?
I think if you're a Monaro lover, you probably love them all. I mean, I'd like to have a HK in the garage and then have a later, HQ or
That's
HJ
what I was
in
thinking,
the garage.
the Bathurst type and the more luxurious type.
Well, HJ, they had time to get it right. The dash was really nice. The trim was pretty ritzy. They got the seats right. Really, it took all that time to get decent seats into a Monaro.
Yes.
And Leo Pruno finally got the rear spoiler on the back that he wanted.
Yeah.
And that front really looked bold. And I think, as a car, you wouldn't mind having one.
No, definitely not. Yeah, look, they did look slightly different to the HQ, and I think they were a little bit, as you mentioned, some a little bit different, and I think people really took to it.
So HJ, GDS, 5 litre Coupe, that'd be a pretty desirable car now, wouldn't it?
It's probably about the most desirable variant, I'd say.
Yeah.
HJ GDS 5 litre manual box. Yeah, that would be the one to have.
And of course, spare parts, panels, everything, not a problem.
Not an issue really these days. I think there's such a supply of parts for the majority of the Monaros that I think that's not an issue.
Well, a very practical classic.
Absolutely, Mark.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
And keep in mind, you can keep up to speed on all the latest Shannons auctions news on the Shannons Club website. If you'd like your own image of the mighty HJ Monaro in competition, visit autopics.com.au. Joe, on reflection, it's amazing looking at the lack of success for this car, the HQ, the HJ, the HX Coupes. Why was that?
Well, you're right. It wasn't an HJ, HX problem. It was an HQ problem. And I think people are very quick to say, Australians don't like coupes. We actually do, but they have to look good. They have to look sensational. And the Charger of that era...
Very good example.
...proved
Yeah.
just how different it was from the sedan, and it proved this premise that if you produce a coupe that you can take home and it looks different from the sedan, you'll put up with the loss of 2 doors.
Yeah, it has to be really different, doesn't it?
It has to be different.
Yeah.
And the Falcon hardtop had the same problem. You had to go through all this all these compromises in the cabin and lose 2 doors for something that really wasn't that smick.
Exactly.
HQ Monaro was one step worse. They changed the styling at the last minute, thinking America was going all formal. You produced a Monaro that didn't look like a coupe, not the racy one that we had in 1968.
Yeah, and it looks so similar to the sedan.
Yes.
Why would you not get the car with 4 doors?
And I think the run of the SS HQ limited edition just showed Holden how much they'd missed it. People were just happy to get into the 4-door as quickly as they could, and that's what happened.
We hope you've enjoyed reflecting on the forgotten HJ and HX coupes, and we look forward to your company next time on Shannons Club TV. Bye for now.